Welcome back to Chrisley Confessions 2.0. And this round is going to be amazing. How are you?
I'm good.
What's your name again?
Because
I haven't seen you in
I'm Julie, remember?
Oh, so you want to do that? Well, I felt like you would remember who I am. Your name is, because I haven't seen you in 28 months.
Yes.
I've just been sleeping with you for the last 34 days. I never thought to ask your name.
Julie Chrisley.
And I'm Todd. I'm your husband. How does it feel? We're back in a chair doing Chrisley Confessions 2.0. We're back to filming.
It's crazy. But I'm so happy to be back. You know, this was something that we did every week for years.
And it was the thing that you and I did.
Yes.
That was just us.
Absolutely. So I'm excited. And Chrisley Confessions 2.0 is going to be even better. You know, we're going to have some amazing guests. Who knows where this is going to end up? You know, we keep saying we're going to do a live show, and I still think that's in the works.
I think that, you know, I've thought about this because like I said, we had 28 months to think about it. And I thought about the whole time that I was there, what the next chapter would look like. What did you, in that process of those 28 months, because you and I would email every day, multiple times a day, I always wondered, what were you thinking? What were the things that you were thinking about when you came home? Outside, keep it clean. I mean, we're going to try to keep it clean.
You know, there was so much unknown, you know, and so for me, as I have said before, yes, I always knew that Savannah was working her butt off, and I always knew that she was going to do everything she could to get us out. But in my day-to-day, I prepared myself to stay until the fall of 26 because that's when I would have completed my sentence. So, you know, there were so many things that would go through my head. You know, if I go home, am I going to do my sentence, go home, get things ready? Because I knew you weren't going to be home when I got home. It was going to be a little bit longer. Then thinking, okay, if this works out, and we get this pardon, we're going home together. We're going to be able to start over together, which was, of course, the ideal situation, but you just never know. So the ideal situation worked out, though, for sure.
Well, I mean, you know, I would think about the same things, but I really felt like that I had kind of, in my prayer with God every day and every night and all through the day, was if he would just get you home.
Right.
If he could just get you home with our kids, then I could do the rest of what I have to do, because I would have that level of peace knowing that you were back in charge, that you were taking care of the things that I knew you would take care of.
Right.
So for us to leave on the same day, it just was surreal to me.
Yeah. I still have those moments. I'm not going to lie. I still have those moments when I'm like, did this really happen? You know, I'm like, that chapter is behind us, completely behind us. And I have to pinch myself sometimes because I'm like, this can't be, I can't believe this has actually happened.
Well, you know, you and I had spoken the other day, and I said, do you have these moments? Because I was telling you about a moment that I'd had. And these moments keep coming. And I mean, I think they're kind of like God winks.
Right.
Because, and I said this to a friend of ours last night in a text message, I said, there is so much power in prayer. But the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me is physically witnessing things that I prayed for actually occurring.
Right.
And I pointed that out to you.
Right. And I think we've talked about this many, many, many times on this podcast. How it's not in our time, it's in God's time.
Right.
And how, you know, I think that's what people tune in. It's so relatable because of everybody has their hard stuff that they have to go through.
That's right.
And we've gone through some really, really hard stuff that I hope no one else has to.
Right.
But we came through on the other side.
And I think that for me, and not to minimize what we have gone through, because yes, this has been horrific what we've gone through. But I think that from the stories that men have shared with me, I sometimes felt like that I didn't want to talk about my life to them.
Right.
I didn't want to talk about kind of, you know, the fact that I was able to be sentenced and then go home and sit in my home and wait, and then go self-surrender.
But not just that. Now, I've never really shared this with you. So I took a class when I was in prison, and it was a long class. I think it was like 26 weeks. You did it one night a week.
I don't have that kind of commitment.
And there were these two wonderful ladies that came in and they taught the class. It was a faith-based. It was called Threshold.
We had Threshold.
So it was a faith-based program. But part of the program was you had to give your life story, and I have been so blessed in my life that I felt that way. Like I was almost embarrassed.
Yes.
To get up, and I actually did not. You could or couldn't. It was your choice if you felt comfortable. But when you hear some of the stories of some of these women and what they've gone through, the trauma, the abuse, just everything. I mean, and it's from like childhood on. And then leading up to their sentence and then their incarceration, I felt that same way, because so many of I didn't experience that growing up. I didn't experience that as a young woman. Yes, I've had hard things in my life. Yes, I've had trauma in my life. But compared to some of the stories that you hear when you're in prison with the women or men that you're living with, it's unbelievable.
Yes. And, I would not, because people, when I first arrived, they were all waiting on me. And they didn't, they wanted to see, this celebrity's coming in, let's see how he acts. Let's see what he does. He's going to be so entitled or whatever.
Right.
And one of the greatest compliments that I've ever received was from so many of the guys there saying, you are exactly in person what you are on television.
Yeah, I had that too. And, even after the word came in that we got pardoned, I was speaking to an officer. He's been there the entire time I was there. Amazing officer, Mr. Massey.
All right, I was going to say, give him credit.
Yes, Mr. Massey. He was our guard. So he came in at 4:00 count till like midnight. But he was just a good, decent man.
And folks, for those who don't know, for her to be able to say that a guard that was there with her, Mr. Massey, was a good, decent, honorable human being, that is a rarity within the Bureau of Prisons. I know that the Bureau of Prisons is on an upward trajectory right now because of the new director, William Marshall, and because of Josh Smith, the new deputy director, a former incarcerated individual. And I know that they believe that the number is not as high as what I believe it is when it comes to bad or dirty COs and staff members and whatever. But so for you to give him that credit, I mean, I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely. And he is a man of faith. So, and I think, and he walks it and he talks it. It's not just me saying that. But I had a conversation with him and, and he said, I want you to know that, he said, I didn't watch TV, so I didn't really know who you were, but everybody knew that you were coming here. And he said, and I have to admit, I was a little like, okay, how's she going to be? Is she going to be like this demanding, person? And he's like, you have been just a pleasure. He said, you have always tried to help people. You've always tried to do the right thing. He said, so I just want you to know that. And, I wish you nothing but the best. So there are good people. Yes, there are good people.
I can say that, from the time that I got there, Chaplain Dixon was a driving force for me because I remember standing on the sidewalk, looking up at the sky, and I was crying because I missed the kids and you're so bad. And I was just by myself, and she walked by and she saw me and she turned around and she goes, Mr. Chrisley? And I said, yes, ma'am. She says, I'm Chaplain Dixon. Come to the chapel and let's talk. And that was my first interaction with staff, was Chaplain Dixon. Right. And she was such a good, decent, honorable human being. She was in the faith. She was in her faith. She knew the scripture. She could quote it backwards and frontwards. Right. And she said, you've got this. You're not going to be here as long as you think you are. She said, the Lord's already put that in my spirit.
Right. So was she there every day?
She was there every day. Maybe one day a week she was out.
Right.
But she was there, and she was a calm in the storm for the men at Pensacola.
So we had Chaplain Caldwell.
But then we lost her. And after that, we had the worst chaplains come in.
So we had Chaplain Caldwell and his wife, Miss Caldwell, but they weren't there every day, you know, because he spent most of his time at the men's prison. Because the difference being, you were a standalone camp.
Right.
I was a satellite camp off of FMC Lexington, which is a men's prison, a medical facility. And, you know, I know there was lots of press when I went in that, oh, she's gone to a medical facility. How's her health? I was not at a medical facility. So the women's camp is not part of the medical facility. It is a working camp. It's just a satellite. We basically do the work for the men's facility. But we're not a medical facility. But we had a Chaplain Caldwell. We had Chaplain Caldwell and his wife, and we had a few others that came in on Sundays, but they were just both lovely, lovely people. And it's actually after I received word of my pardon, I walked back down the hallway, and I was in the entry, and they were there because they were doing, it was like a celebration for another volunteer. Bishop Morton, and he was amazing. He had been coming to the camp for 40 years, and he came every Tuesday night for church. But I actually saw Mr. and Miss Caldwell, and she grabbed me, hugged me, and prayed with me, like literally 5 minutes after I found out I'd gotten pardoned.
It's those moments, though. It's those moments that help carry you. And that's what I would say to the men that I was with. You know, take the good days. Celebrate the good days, because there's going to be plenty of bad. And, you know, certainly so many things, and this is what's hard to believe, but it's God. I believe so many good things have happened.
Right.
It was not good to be away from you. It was not good to be away from our children, but it did force our children to grow up.
Absolutely.
It did force them to realize that one day we're not going to be here. We will be gone forever.
Right.
So in that sense, it did force them to grow up. Some of them have handled it differently than others.
Right.
Some have struggled more than others. But at the end of the day, they were raised right. They were raised in the Word. They know God. And I love the fact that you will hear one of them say, you'll hear Savannah, she'll post something about Scripture and a part of the Psalms that has brought her peace for that day. You'll hear Grayson say, I do pray, Dad, I do pray. You'll hear Chase say, well, I just know that God's going to handle this.
Right.
So when I hear them saying that doesn't mean that they're perfect, but it means that they're searching for something better than what they currently have right now.
Absolutely.
And so I see those things that have occurred. And certainly I would not give up my faith and where I am in my faith today and my understanding of it. If you said to me, you don't have to go for the 28 months, but you will never have this walk that you have now with Christ, I would tell you that I love you, but I have to go for this 28 months.
Right.
Because my faith means more to me than anything now, because it sustained me at a time that I did not know what else would.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So, I look now, I've done the press conference, when we first got home. We've now done the show with Juju Chang, that's running on Hulu. Right. We've done the interview with Laura Trump, who was our first interview and who we love and respect. We've done those things.
Right.
And now we're moving forward with a new show. And I've got 3 other shows, that are now projected to be picked up. Things that I worked on. So, I worked on those things while in prison.
Right.
I put those things together because I kept my mind busy, and I literally just pretended that I was at a busted, broke down studio. And so I kept working and I kept dreaming. And you've always been the practical side. I've always been the dreamer.
Right.
And that has served us well in our life, but it has also caused us friction, because you would be like, but Todd, I don't know that you can do that.
Right.
And all that did was fuel me that much more. And folks, I think she did that as reverse psychology to force me to do something that I might have been doubting I could do to begin with. But what is the thing now that we're home that has been the most refreshing and happy moment for you that you had dreamed about while you were there? And again, keep it clean.
Really. I was so lucky that I got to see the kids. So I got to see them. I got to touch them, hug them, talk to them. I didn't get that with you. I didn't get to talk to you. I didn't get to hear your voice. We didn't get to have a phone conversation. So just to be back with my person, to be back at home, to know that I'm there with my kids, that I can make plans. Grayson's like, Mom, you have to go to a game with me. Chloe, I can't wait for you to go to my school. Those are the things that I missed because I was that mom. I was that mom that went to everything.
Right.
And so to know that I can make a plan for August, September, October, and I'm going to be here to do that. That's what's still surreal to me, and just to know that we can truly start our lives over.
I think for me, because so many people have asked in these interviews and stuff, what was your thing? Again, I got to see our children. I got to hug them, and I hugged them the entire 8 hours that they were with me on those visitations. And Chloe would sit in my lap, and I would hug her and hold her. So I had that, and I'm grateful to God that I had that. But again, I didn't have you. And so I finally realized the other day when I was driving down the road what it was, and it was the safety.
Yeah.
It was the safety of being back with you, knowing that if I needed something, you were there.
Right.
If I, just being able to feel you in the bed beside me at night.
Right.
For you to walk into the bathroom when I'm shaving, it's the little things that that meant nothing to you before.
Right.
But
you took
now,
for granted.
Right. But now means so much.
Right.
And so I think that the safety of being back with you and knowing that, because there are times when you're in that situation that you start feeling defeated and that you feel that all hope is lost.
Right.
And that's when you have to cling to your faith the most, because God says to you, through him, all things are possible.
Right. But I can tell you, I truly never gave up hope.
I didn't either.
Like I did not.
Unlike you, not to cut you off, but you had said in another interview that you had reconciled, that you were going to be there until August of 26.
Yeah.
Folks, I had never reconciled any such foolishness.
But
I was leaving every day. When I went to bed at night, I was preparing to walk out the next morning.
And we have women that are still at Atwood right now that are that same way, But for me, it's how I had to do my time.
But it's what you've done ever since we've been together.
Right. I just dig my heels in and just keep moving forward and keep working and keep staying busy. And that's what got me through. I mean, I am so grateful that's, people would ask me all the time, why do you work all the time? Because that's what got me through, because it made the days go by so fast,
Let's talk about that, because you did, because, Savannah would come and tell me that you worked all the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting so furious when I started thinking about you working for these shithole of facilities.
I wasn't doing it for that reason.
Right.
I was doing it for me.
Right. But it took me a minute to get to that.
Right. Because I worked Monday through Thursday in commissary. And for those of you who don't know, commissary is just your little store that's within the prison.
Not the kind of retail I like.
No, but where you go typically once a week and you're able to give them your paper and you get the things that you need to live on. And that's what people don't understand. I think something people don't understand is it's hard to live in prison without any money. Literally, I had my bunkie that when I left, she said that I guess she had maybe asked her mom and stepfather for just to put a little money on her books. And her stepfather was like, why do you need money? Like, you're in prison. Why do you need money? But what people don't realize is that the food is horrible, subpar. So you can buy other things in the commissary
if they have them in stock.
Yeah, and our commissary was good.
Right,
I worked in commissary.
Right, but we didn't have that.
But But
Our
also,
commissariats ran horrible.
Also, like your toiletries, shampoo, soap, lotion, deodorant. And where I was, we had to do our own laundry. So we actually had washer and dryer on each, 2 washers, 2 dryers on each floor. So we had to buy like our own laundry soap and stuff. So if you
I had to buy my own laundry soap and stuff, but I had to have it brought in from Walmart because they didn't sell it.
Whatever. So if you're in prison, though, it's hard to make it if no one's helping you on the outside, if no one's giving you any money. And, I want people to know that if you know someone that's in prison, and you want to do something to help them, yes, for them to be able to buy toiletries, to be able to buy a little snack. It does make it a little bit easier.
To be able to buy sweats and things like that makes their life a little bit easier.
Right. They don't give you sweats and shorts and sweatshirts and jacket. I mean, they give you these big bulky jackets, but we had these like gray, thin jackets. That's all I ever wore. I never got a issued jacket coat because
you always want to be cold. Me, on the other hand, I did have a jacket.
No, I didn't.
Because I can't stand to be cold.
But I worked Monday through Thursday in commissary. And then on Friday, sometimes we'd go to the warehouse. Or if my friend Star needed help in the kitchen, I'd work kitchen on Fridays. I usually had a visit on Saturdays, whether either my parents or the kids or a friend. And then Sundays, a lot of times I'd work in the kitchen again, Star. I'd be like, if you need help. And then if there was like a holiday or something, like I did Thanksgiving, I did Christmas, and helped with those meals. And I love doing that because to me, that was a little glimmer of just my real world. Of home.
Right.
Being able to cook a holiday meal. So I loved that part of it, and then people were like, you're crazy. Why do you? But for me, it worked. You, on the other hand, I know you didn't work. So
no,
that's okay.
I mean, I did work for the Lord when I first got there because I was a clerk with the chaplain. Mm-hmm. But when when Chaplain Dixon left, and Savannah had started, exposing all the corruption that was going on there under Sherry Salisbury, my warden, it was her way of retaliating against me. Was to take me out of the chapel because that's where I'd been my whole time.
Right.
And Warden Joseph had always said, who was there when I first went there, he said he and Captain Hawley had made the decision that for safety, which there was nothing going on at my facility, but they felt like the BOP folks, what I think that after the whole Epstein thing happened and someone of high profile had died in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons, the Bureau of Prisons started looking at high-profile individuals to make sure that they had an extra layer of safety, which, again, is bizarre because no life is more valuable than the next. Nah. But they made the decision to place me in the chapel, which was fine. I mean, because I could watch TV all day. And I was only there for 4 hours. I only had to work for 4 hours, which I never worked. But I watched all the movies, and I handed out movies if people wanted to come in there. Like they were not supposed to be able to watch movies during certain times, but I always let them. So
you're horrible.
They took me out of the Warden Salisbury, who, by the way, is no longer going to be a warden. The facility is closing, and I'm now going back to speak. This is the irony of God that we talked about earlier. I am now going back to speak at the RDAP graduation.
So RDAP, for people who don't know.
For people who don't know, RDAP stands for Residential Drug and Something Program. Mm-hmm. Which I don't believe in because I watched that program being weaponized against me in there through Dennis Profit.
Well, it's not that you don't believe in the program. You don't believe in how it's executed.
That's right. Because when you had someone in psychology, Dennis Profit, who is a maniac, this man is an abuser of all sorts of ways. Those men are leaving with post-traumatic stress. And then you had... Mandy Ramsey, who was over the program, who literally hated men, and she treated them like garbage. And Savannah exposed so much that she retired because of the investigation that was starting. Dennis Profit is still there, and still abusive, still writing fake shots to men. For you don't know what a fake shot is, it's like when you were in high school and you got an incident report and you had to go to the principal. Exactly that.
I guess I have to tell a funny story about
I
shots.
got several of them. She did not.
I never got a shot. I never got a write-up, never got anything. But let me tell you, so we had this lady come in, and we were all sitting in what's called the bus stop. It was just a room, and you'd play cards in there, just kind of hang out, right? Well, so she was asking questions because she was nervous, and she was so scared, she cried. And somebody was saying something, well, be careful because you can get a shot for that. And she looked dead serious, and she said, "What kind of shot did they give you? Does it hurt? Does it knock you out?" And I'll never forget, Mallory was sitting over here. She said, "Does it knock you out? Girl, if it was knocking you out, everybody in here would be lined up to get a shot. It's not a real shot. It's like a demerit."
Right, exactly.
She literally thought that it was a real shot.
Well, because people that have never done anything in their life, this is all brand new to them.
No, but I just thought that was hilarious to me.
But, I did not work. I did my thing in the chapel until Salisbury decided to move me out as retaliation. I think that was going to shut me up. Clearly it did not, which is why the place is closing and she ain't got no job. But then they thought, well, I'll degrade him and I'll make him be an orderly in his dorm. Please, I subcontracted that out. And I paid somebody to do that and went right on about my business and kept working out, kept going to the library, kept calling Savannah, reporting stuff. If I saw a staff member abusive to anyone there, I wrote them up. If I saw they were not following policy, I wrote them up.
We had people at our camp that sat at that computer and constantly wrote somebody up. And we talked about them people all the time.
I don't care. I'm glad you did. We had people at our camp
literally
like y'all
you could see 'em.
That didn't do shit except run and whisper in our ear and say, "Can you help me do something? I don't have enough hair on my ass to do it."
To the administrator.
I didn't do no administrator. My administrator was your daughter, Barbara Wawa Savannah Chrisley. I sent 1,000 emails to Savannah every day. "Savannah, let me go ahead and tell you about Hackett in the reentry program, what he said to this person. Let me tell you about Richardson, how she degraded this man in front of the whole RDAP class. Let me tell you about Mandy Ramsey. Let me tell you about Dennis Prophet. Let me tell you about this worthless AW who does nothing
I know, but
except
you
smoke."
were telling on the staff, not telling on other inmates.
Well, I would never tell on another inmate because I was an inmate. It was us against them. Now, you had some out there that was snitches.
Yeah.
But everyone knew they were snitches. So you didn't fool with them.
Right.
And sometimes the guys, they would set them up to get them caught, so that therefore they'd know what it was like. But they called it kites. When somebody would put like a BP something in or an incident report or whatever, and they'd drop it in the box, like they were putting in a BP-8 or something, but it would be a note. This person has a phone. Or this person's having Tide Pods smuggled in. Or this person had Burger King yesterday. Things like that. Minding other people's business.
Yeah. I hear you.
But as far as doing my time with the guys, it wasn't great, but it was, and as much as I love all of you, I don't want to be your roommate again. But you can come have dinner with me. It was nowhere near what you had in your mind.
No. It wasn't like what's on the internet.
No.
It wasn't like...
we all know you can't believe nothing on the internet.
Right. So true. Because it's just not that way.
No.
Or it wasn't that way for me.
And, and going back to Mr. Massey, I had some good staff there.
Right.
I liked Taft. I liked Kennedy. Chaplain Dixon was my person. Miss Gamble, who was over the union, I liked her. I liked Hawkins, who came from where you were at.
Lexington. He came before he went to you, but I never met him.
Right,
that. Yeah.
Right. But, I liked him. I loved Miss Abear in medical. There were a few people there that I genuinely liked as far as staff went. And then there were those that were abusers and thieves and that were bringing in phones and K2 and stuff and selling it to the inmates. You know, you had people like Church, who was an abuser. You had the Blues Brothers that were abusers. You had Piote, who ran commissary, who did not manage the budget appropriately, and we had nothing to order. Everything was always running out. You had Medina, who ran laundry, who was literally, I've never seen a grown man that little. He literally was the size of Chloe when she was 9. I called him a little pocket pal. You could have picked him up and stuck him in your pocket. And he ran laundry. Now keep in mind, he had gone from Mariana, which was another facility, issues over there. Then that's what happens in the BOP. I used to say that in the BOP, you got to fuck up to move up. That was the requirement. Because you've got so many degenerative people that work there that's why the BOP is in the shape it's in, because they've had to go to the bottom of the barrel to hire people. But Medina, he was over laundry. Now, folks, you get I got 5 uniforms when I got there. How many did you get?
I don't know. I think I got 3.
Well, I think that's policy is 3. I ended up getting 5.
But literally, I kept just a couple because I didn't like my space to be cluttered. And I wash clothes every day.
Yeah, well, see, I had 5 uniforms, and so I had a guy that did my laundry there, and with the Tide and all the stuff that someone brought me. And I had that done. Then I had a guy that ironed my stuff for me, and it hung in a different, a little certain area so that everything was always pressed. But Medina, he was so abusive to these men. If the warden got onto him for something, he would come in your dorm and bring the guys that work in laundry with the big carts. Mm-hmm. And if you had one blanket more than you were supposed to, he stripped your whole bed and took everything. Now, I had 9 blankets. Because first of all, I get cold, so you know that. But I made my bed to where, because I had a new mattress, which is by, folks, I'm sitting here saying I had a new mattress. You need to understand that's a luxury because most men and women don't have that. But I had a new mattress. So then I took 2 blankets and wrapped that mattress and then put my sheet on top of that. Then my next sheet. Then I put 2 blankets on top. So that took 4 blankets. But then I had to have my other blankets in case I got cold, or I used them as drapes to where I had my privacy to where I could read and be left alone. Well, he would come in and steal all this stuff like it was his.
I know, but you weren't supposed to have it.
Oh, my God. We're supposed to not be having food that's 9 years old either. And your point? Mm-hmm. But, he was just an abusive person at the way he treated men and how he degraded them. And he would say, I remember Melvin Williams, who, folks, y'all are going to hear a lot about Melvin over the course of Chrisley Confessions 2.0. He is my best friend. He was a veteran law enforcement officer there in New Orleans. You've heard me talk about him. Just a wonderful, kind man. He was my boss in the chapel, which, again, why I didn't have to do anything. Melvin did everything. But I remember Melvin going up there to get his laundry, and Melvin's such a humble man. And Medina looked at the clock, and he said, what time is that? He said, you know how to tell time? And Melvin said, yes, sir. He said, tell me what time it is on that clock. And he looked and he said, 1:01. He said, what time's laundry close? He said, 1 o'clock. He said, then get the fuck out of here. And it humiliated Melvin so bad. And I saw, and he walked in. I put my shoes on and I walked right back up there, and he was getting ready to lock the door, and he goes, what's up, Chrisley? I said, I need to pick up Melvin Williams' laundry. I said, since you told him to get the fuck out of here, I said, I want to make sure that I've got it correct when I write you up. And he just looked at me and he opened the door and he went in, he grabbed the laundry and he said, here. He said, make sure you put that in your write-up. I said, I will, and I'll make sure that you instructed me to put it in there. I said, I don't miss anything. And I got his laundry and I went back. That became a running joke at that point because everyone knew that if I saw a staff member being abusive to someone, I was going to call it out. And listen, it made my time harder.
Right.
But if I had to give up, and when I say harder, it was just they messed with me more.
Right.
It was worth it for me to know that I was able to get his laundry. Right. Because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
to make sure that someone got to go to chow and eat because you said they were a minute late. You know, to write someone up because you took an apple from a 78-year-old man because he had it in his pocket coming out of commissary.
Out of commissary?
I mean, not commissary, but out of the chow hall. You know, the warden, she would stand there and she would shake these older men down because they would bring their fruit back to the dorm and they would eat it at night. She would take it out of their pockets and throw it in the trash can right in front of them. So you're wasting the food.
Yeah, we didn't have that.
That these elder, listen, I would hope and pray that the BOP is not full of Sherry Salisbury's.
Yeah.
But this is a woman that, again, you screw up, you move up in the BOP. This is a woman who has had multiple write-ups, infractions in her personnel file, and they kept moving her around to get her out of a facility that she had already screwed up in.
Yeah.
And that's why people, and listen, it's not.
I did notice that did happen where somebody would mess up at one facility, and rather than reprimand them or fire them, they just move them to another facility. So what makes you think they're not going to do the same thing or worse at another facility?
Right, and our facility was full. They literally called, and because this was supposed to be Camp Cupcake. I mean, where I was at was on the internet. It talks about there's a pool, there's a theater. None of that exists. That's all hype on the internet. That's just a lie. But it was still called Camp Cupcake because it was on a decommissioned military base.
Right.
And so how we lived is how our members of service lived. But I'm sure it was clean when they were there.
Right.
The BOP took over and it went to shit. But it was said at our camp that our camp became the burial ground for people in the BOP that had disciplinary infractions. They sent them there so they could get them out and get them retired.
That's crazy.
So the taxpayers can keep paying their retirement rather than fire these people for sexual assault, for theft, for falsifying federal documents, because that happened when at my facility, our former captain there, Captain Hawley, he was demoted to a position as a counselor because he was forging federal documents on timesheets saying he was working when he was not. That's stealing from the federal government.
Yeah.
We went to jail for falsely being accused and convicted of owing taxes that it's now come out we never owed. But yet people wanted to jump on the bandwagon. Well, you do the crime, you do the time. But yet this individual there, Captain Hawley, stole from the taxpayers.
I think they call it overtime fraud too.
Right.
There was a
and they had him dead to right. He had signed the documents, and instead of firing him, he's now in New York at another Bureau of Prisons, but they made him a counselor there and let him keep his job. And then when it was announced that they were closing that facility, he was transferred to New York. Someone who you got for stealing.
Right.
But you're going to keep them in the Bureau.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, you know, I get so worked up over it, and I get so passionate about what I'm doing right now, which is working with the new director, you know, and the deputy director with the Bureau of Prisons. Savannah and I continue to expose these things. I continue, you know yourself, my phone goes off all night long from family members or staff members at other facilities reporting things to me. I get up every morning and I turn around and I flip all of that stuff over there, you know, to the Bureau of Prisons, to the director, to the deputy director, to other support staff there, and say, this is going on at this location. This is going on at this location. This person, someone put their hands on him. This person's supposed to have had medical care. They're not getting it. You see me doing this.
Right.
And I can say for the first time since I was incarcerated in January 17th of 2023, that I see a change. I see, you know, the director and the deputy director implementing President Trump's First Step Act.
Yes.
And which was not done during the entire administration of the Biden administration. I was there for 28 months of Biden's administration, or 24 months of it. And I can tell you that those case managers did nothing. They did not adhere to the FSA. They did not adhere to the Second Chance Act. Mm-hmm. Because through their union, they have been programmed that if we get these men and women out of here, we have to reduce the workforce within the Bureau of Prisons. Now, what that means is that every bargaining member of the union pays what's called union dues to be a member. Mm-hmm. Well, if the union is collecting union dues from, say, 35,000 federal Bureau of Prison employees, if you reduce, which President Trump's First Step Act that was co-authored by Jared Kushner, if that was implemented correctly, you would see the number of incarcerated individuals drop to lower than it would drop at least 30%.
Right.
Because of the First Step Act.
Right.
Which is something that President Trump never has been given the credit, because guess what? President Biden hated Trump so much that he wanted to follow through on anything that President Trump put in place. Even though a vast majority of people that are incarcerated are Democrats.
Right.
But yet the Democrats believe in the unions. They want those unions to continue growing.
Right.
So if you reduce the number of inmates by, let's just say 30,000, do you still need to add 10% more to your workforce, which is part of the contract with the Bureau of Prisons, with the union, that you must increase your work staff by 10% a year?
Right.
So they all got in their minds that if we let these men and women out, they're our job security.
Right.
And the more that leave, the more of us that are going to end up leaving.
Right.
So they did nothing.
Right.
So you've got men and women dying in incarceration that could have been at home with their families. You've got men and women who's losing children and not being able to be there for their funeral services, or to not be there for an ill spouse or an ill parent, whatever it is. All because of the greed and the self-preservation of these employees with the Bureau of Prisons.
Right.
And I witnessed this. This is not hearsay. I watched Janet Genilat, who is a case manager. I watched her lie. She did it to me. I watched her lie and say she had put people in for halfway house, for home confinement, that she was processing them out, under their FSAs. After I reported her and the investigation started, Lieutenant Eamon, who was running SIS, called me in and said, "How did you find out she had not put you in for the CARES Act?" And I said, "So then obviously you know that what I reported her for is true." He said, "It is true."
Right.
And he, at that point, sat there for 45 minutes and shared with me what she had been doing and what he had uncovered, and how she had been stealing my legal mail and reading it and shredding it and all that stuff. But that woman right there is still at the Bureau of Prisons. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that not only is she terminated, but that she is held civilly liable for falsely imprisoning so many men there at FPC Pensacola. And under the watch of Sherry Salisbury. She knew it was going on. When she was made aware of it, she pulled her out.
Well, then there's definitely no accountability. There is no. I would always say, any other place, any other business, any other corporation, there is somewhere where the buck stops here.
Right.
And there's some accountability that if you don't do this, you're going to suffer the repercussions of it. It's just not that way in the Bureau.
No.
It's just
not. And you had Colette Peters, who I had such hope for when she was brought in as the director, who did nothing. She did nothing. As a woman.
Yeah.
She did nothing.
Yeah.
And
I remember we watched the interview. I think it was on 60 Minutes that she was on.
It was with Juju Chang, where she was asked, "Do you feel you owe these women an apology?"
Right. And she said no. Then they asked her, how short are you as far as employees? How many do you need? She didn't know. She couldn't tell you.
But let's just talk about that just for a second, because the irony of that is that Juju Chang did that interview with her, and then we gave Juju the second interview with us.
Right.
Who I love. She's been very fair to us. She's very direct, very to the point. I like her, and I like her style of journalism.
Right.
But she said to Colette Peters about the women that had been raped and abused in one of her prisons in California. What do you say to these women who claim that they've never been issued an apology from the Bureau of Prisons? Do you feel you owe them an apology? No, I don't. Folks, this is a woman in at the top of the food chain with the Bureau of Prisons, where women are being raped, and you say you owe them no apology just from the simple fact of being a woman
to woman.
You would say to another woman, I'm so sorry for what you've gone through.
Right.
And she offered nothing.
Yeah.
And that is a broken system.
Yeah.
When you think about the disparity between a male inmate and a female inmate, I remember the head of food services when Savannah had exposed that they were serving food that was 9 years old and all that stuff. I remember him saying to me, you think this is bad? Try being in a women's prison.
Yeah.
Because they get what the men don't want.
That's right. That is so true.
So when you think about this, you think about this, the part of our society that gives life, that births children, that raises children, that is a mother, a sister, a wife. When you think about that, and we're giving you less than what a man gets.
Yeah.
When you think about women still having to break the glass ceiling in corporate 500 companies, it's 2025. We're really no better than where we were in the 60s.
Yeah.
We're just better at covering it up.
Yeah. Though there would be many days where we would have to have a sack dinner. And we'd be like, why are we having a sack dinner? Because there's no work, there's nobody to work. But they were over at the men's prison working, making sure that they got their hot meal.
But do you know why? But do you know why staff told me that that's the case? Because they said men will riot.
Yes.
They said men will sit out.
Men will.
They will not go to work. They will do a sit out and they will riot. And
Yes.
they says, and the women are too afraid to do it.
Yep. So, but again, you're preying on someone.
But I was Norma Ray. I was Sally Fields and Norma Ray. I stood up. I did.
But it really is sad. But, we have so many stories, and we have so many stories to share, because this could go on, forever, and we're going to talk about so much more, because, listen, we're back leading our lives again. So
Yes.
there's so much
more to talk about regarding me and you and what our plans are, because folks, what you don't for all of you that have kept up with us and have followed us for many years, you now know that we're encroaching upon empty nest syndrome, because now we really only have Chloe.
Yeah.
And so,
and for us, one child kind of is empty nest almost.
And you and I have talked about so many plans that we have that Chloe's just going to have to be drug along. Right. And
that's okay.
That's a great thing.
That's okay.
And I will pull a Kourtney Kardashian here. I believe in homeschooling. And so we've got so much stuff going on. Savannah's got so much stuff going on that we want to share with you guys.
Right.
Chase has got stuff going on. Grayson, our baby's got so much going on. He's kind of semi in love right now, and he doesn't want anyone to know it. So I'm not going to tell anyone that he's semi in love.
Please don't.
Lord. So we've got that going on. We've got the worst teenager in America, Nanny Faye, that is still running the streets and acting like she's had no raising. We're going to talk about relationships, past and present. We're going to talk about some that are in our past that will stay in our past and some that will move forward with us. Sure. We're going to talk about betrayal. We're going to talk about redemption. We're going to talk about so many things that the world needs to hear right now. And we're going to talk about survival.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how you can be better than ever after the worst experience of your life. So there's so many things that we're going to be talking about that we hope that you guys will follow us on this journey with Chrisley Confessions 2.0 that I just can't even list them all. But what I would like to do is I'd like to go over some questions that we've already received.
Right. We've received so many questions, so we're just going to do a couple today.
Right.
And then every week we'll answer a few more.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you just one.
Okay.
Okay, was there anything that you enjoyed while in prison?
I enjoyed working out, and I enjoyed the fellowship that I had in the chapel with my friends that came there.
Okay. What did you eat?
I had Chick-fil-A.
Todd.
You ask me what did I eat, and I'm not going to come on here and lie. I had Chick-fil-A. I had Burger King, I had pizza, I had Culver's, which let me just go ahead and tell you, this is not an ad.
Oh my God.
But Culver's is my jam now. I love Culver's. And when I found out, when you made me go with you to Sam's this week,
Yes.
And you said, if you go with me, what'd you say?
We can go to Culver's.
I said, we don't have a Culver's here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. It's down from the Sam's in Brentwood. And so why'd I go?
Yeah.
Because I had Culver's.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had that. I had Olive Garden once, but I didn't like it because...
Okay, so I'm going to answer this. What I ate in prison, which was none of that. None. I had
women's prisons.
One morsel of outside food for 28 months.
Did you not make friends with any of the staff?
Oh my God. No, not that way. No, I didn't.
For those of you that I made friends with.
But I'm actually going to do some filming at home of some things that I cooked while I was in prison, because I think that's kind of cool.
Well, I would have to get my chef, because I had a chef that made my food.
Okay, well, I didn't.
I had quesadillas that he would make with an iron.
Which you're not supposed to have.
With pepperonis and pizza sauce that I had brought in from Walmart.
Yeah, speaking of that, we go to Sam's this week, and he buys this huge bag of pepperonis. I'm like, what are you doing?
And the thing about it is,
he was afraid he was going to need his pepperonis.
I've not even opened them, but I was going through the... First of all, I don't shop. Everybody knows that, or like that, like food stuff. But I was going down those aisles and I was looking at all that stuff and I was thinking, God, I wish I could just send all of this to my friends.
I know. Because you do develop this like sense of urgency, or like you want to hoard a little bit, because
I didn't do that, because I had like 5 commissaries.
Because you don't know what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. Like you said, commissary, you run out. If it's around inventory time, you're going to go at least a good month and not have anything hardly in there to buy. Mm-hmm. So you do like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure I have this, because you don't want to run out, because it's not like you can run out. I couldn't just like run out to the Walmart or the Target and get what I needed.
I did not go to the Walmart. The Walmart came to moi.
Oh my gosh.
But don't you think, speaking of that, I want to touch on this. Don't you think, because you're not supposed to be, according to her, you're not supposed to be doing all that. But don't you think that if you stocked pepperonis on your commissary, or you stocked cookies, or you stocked the things that people are bringing in, you would stop them from having to bring that stuff in?
Well, you would. But, also because I did work and I know how commissaries are ran, the vendors that they buy from are not just like, it's not like Amazon. So it's not like they always have it. So yeah, we may order a particular chocolate chip cookie and then you may go to reorder it and they don't have it. Because I think a lot of these places, they buy overstocked, that service commissaries.
That's out of date.
Not always, but we did get certain things when we would receive it in. It would already be expired, and so we would be like, okay, we have to send this back because it's already expired, it would be real close to the expiration date. And I think it's because I'm sure they get it at a cheaper price, which is how these companies make their money, by buying it so much cheaper.
But don't you think being in commissary, I guess she's an authority now, being in commissary and being the Bureau of Prisons, the second highest budget outside of defense, you don't think they can't pick up the phone and say, Besso, drop us some stuff?
Well, I just don't think it's that simple. But
it is that simple.
Okay, but what prison thing did you eat? Quesadillas? That's what you ate? This question that someone asked was about food.
I ate quesadillas all the time. If I did not have my food brought in from the street, I ate quesadillas. That's what I had. That and tuna.
Okay, so I ate a lot of tuna, and I really didn't eat tuna before I went in. But
I love tuna.
We had quesadillas. We had nachos.
I had nachos. Yep. Aaron made me nachos.
I made a pickle wrap, which is really good.
Yeah, I ain't eating all that.
You don't know because you've never had it.
I had Culver's. Why would I eat a pickle wrap?
Oh my gosh, it was so good. They're so good. I made them before I left for everybody.
You have been prisonized.
I have not, but I guarantee if I made it for you today, you would like it.
Well, let me ask you something.
So refreshing.
When you walked around campus, was your pocket hanging out? Or
shut
was it
up.
in?
You are, shut up.
Because I always wondered if you was a pocket puller.
Do you want me to do this podcast with you or not? You better take that out.
No, do not take that out, because that is great. Do not take that, because people are going to die over that.
No,
I give you these comedic lines and you don't want to shit on them.
Shut up.
I could have said you a puller, but I said a pocket puller.
You saw it. Oh my God.
So what's your next question?
Well, I don't even know. You got me all flustered over that.
Well, either you're a pocket puller or you're not.
Okay, stop. No, we're not even going to answer that.
Okay.
Someone asked what our living arrangement was right now.
I was curious about that.
Our living arrangement now is we came home to Savannah's.
Oh, I thought you was talking about your girlfriend in prison. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I got confused. I was off track. I was talking about pocket pulling, and then you said living conditions. So go ahead. Come on.
Not funny.
I'm not trying to be funny. You jumped.
Someone always says you're the gay one, not me.
And
they
listen,
never said I was the gay
I'm
one.
good that people thought that my sex life continued when I left.
Listen, I don't even know what I was going to say.
See?
Our living conditions. No.
This is the promo.
We came home to Savannah's. So it was me, you, Savannah, Gray, and Chloe. Grayson's home for the summer.
Right.
And so right now we're all together except for Chase, who has his own place. But I do think that Savannah's going to venture out. She doesn't want to live with her mom and dad anymore.
I think that Savannah has decided that she's not going to let us see trashy conduct. So
not
she's leaving.
No, not that. But you know what? It's like she said. She moved to Nashville at 17 to go to college.
I did too.
So she has been on her own since then. I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to live with me all the time.
Well, if I was her, I wouldn't want to live with you either. But
Okay.
I'm not. I do want to live with you.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
But my living conditions are fine. I don't have
Yeah, again, puts things into perspective after
Yes.
our previous living
I would rather
conditions.
live with you, Savannah, Chase, Mama. No, because I did like my little roommates. So I think I said to you the other day, folks, I went 28 months without throwing up. I came home and got sick a week later with food poisoning.
Is that how you want to end this podcast, talking about that?
Well, I'm just going to say 28 months, I had no fighting, no arguing. I didn't throw up one time, never got sick.
Okay, but keep in mind, Savannah has threatened you with a return policy if you keep it up.
Who does that to their poor old daddy?
Yeah.
And says, you do know there's a return policy for you.
So, folks, as you can tell, we have so many stories to tell y'all, to share with you, and so many new ones that we're going to create and share with you as well. So, until next time, you always finish the podcast. What is up with him?
I'm just aggravating you.
Until next time,
What you miss say?
good luck and God bless. Oh, my God.
Come on, go ahead.
So, until next time,
Good luck and Todd bless. If you loved this episode, make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcast.